Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Especially, special thanks to Malik, who's talking to us from South Africa. Big clap for Malik. Malik, we are very excited because this is the first time that we have an international conference. Usually Taulet has no boundaries, okay? There's no river long enough, there's no valley low enough, okay? So we cross borders, okay? I wanted to thank everyone for being here. We have all been reading a short story, Chameleon, which is a beautiful story that Malik knows very well. But Malik is here to give us some background information, right? Some historical information. Because I wanted to introduce Malik. I want to tell you who this man is. Malik Vazi is a South African citizen based in Spain from time to time, between Spain and South Africa. We've got the honor of having his wife here with us, Karma, that she will talk to you later. He's a business, he studied biomedical sciences and business studies in South Africa, public health doctorate in Holland, and health economics in Spain. Okay, so he's one of the big ones. So he manages a health promotion company, Zeal Health, that among other health services, it trains people on mental, health first aid, and other self-help strategies to promote mental and emotional well-being. All right. So he spent his teenage years fighting against racial oppression in South Africa, and as a member of student and youth organizations, the Young Communist League, and ultimately he joined armed resistance at the age of 17 years old. So we know that he's an activist. Malik, when I talk about you, I always talk about an activist. We have a social activist, political activist from South Africa. He now also runs a non-profit organization, NGO, non-governmental organization, to help former liberation war veterans like himself to live and having a dignified life in a democratic era. We will talk about this, democratic era, okay? Apartheid, this is one of the questions. Is apartheid over? Is it not? What are the consequences? We're going to start from the beginning and we will reach the present day, all right? We will go little by little. Does everybody more or less understand? So, Malik, I need to tell you something. Before starting the conversation, I wanted to say that we have the pleasure, okay, of having in the audience students from English 2 and English 3. So some of the students in English 2, they have a limited knowledge of English, but they have an unlimited enthusiasm to understand. All right? So we will make our best for you to understand. Do you follow? Yes. All right? Okay. So anything you don't understand, just let us know, okay? And I will start. So I don't know, sitting here? No, this is the way. All right, so Malik, I just wanted to start this conversation by asking
Perdona, potser una miqueta més endavant. No, cap. Aquí està.
So, yeah, everyone sees? So, I just wanted to start the conversation by asking you about something that is essential, okay, for the understanding of chameleon, which is the political system it is inscribed in, apartheid. So my question was, Malik, what did apartheid consist of, and how is it related to colonialism? Do you understand?
Yes.
So, the floor is yours.
Buenas tardes. Yes, good evening. I will try and speak very slow so that we understand each other. Where I can assist, maybe I will add a little bit of Spanish so that you don't miss anything. But because this is an English class, it it will be English mainly. And we will just do it very full. Okay.
Good.
So, yes, apartheid was a system designed by descendants of Europeans who came to South Africa to create Europe in Africa. So the main purpose effectively was to have little Holland in Africa, or little United Kingdom or Britain in Africa. In the main, the rest of the population, the black population, like mine, their job was to serve, and the country, the resources was to maintain the life standards of Europeans in Africa. So, the relationship with colonization, it is very clear. It is very clear because colonization is about conquering people. It's about taking their land as yours. It's about taking their resources for your own benefit. And it's about, at the end, making sure that you are okay at their expense. So that is effectively what colonization is all about. And that's what apartheid did. Apartheid, we called it colonization of a special type. It was a colonization of a special type because the colonialists, they were living in the same land as the colonized. Unlike Spain in Latin America, Spain was in Madrid, the power was in Madrid, and all the good things were moving from Latin America to Spain. Yes, you had a few Spanish in Latin America, but the majority were actually in Spain, where you had both the colonizer and the colonized in the same land, divided by color in the main. And that was also, of course, designed to say if you are right, you are superior. If you are not right, you are inferior. And that was how resources and opportunities were distributed. If you like to get more opportunities, more resources, if you are black, less opportunities and almost no resources, except to serve. Is that clear so far?
Yeah, do you understand what he's saying, more or less, in general? I think that this, your definition of apartheid implements very well what Trevor Noaha, okay, writes, right, in his novel. We read just one section called Chameleon, but in one of the first chapters, he defines apartheid, and I'm reading from the book. Apartheid was perfect racism. Okay? It took centuries to develop, starting all the way back in 1652, when the Dutch East India Company landed at the Cape of Good Hope and established a trading colony, Kaapstad, later known as Cape Town, a rest stop for ships traveling between Europe and India. To impose white rule, the Dutch colonists went to war with the natives, ultimately developing a set of laws to subjugate and enslave them. Apartheid was a police state, a system of surveillance, and laws designed to keep black people under total control, right? I think that is exactly what you were saying, right? this system of oppressions and dominations that were established by law, legally, right, and structurally in the country. So I think that we're ready now to start to try to understand, okay, what was the position of someone like Trevor Noaha? Because Trevor Noaha was born a crime, right? So one of the quotes reads, during apartheid, one of the worst crimes you could commit was having sexual relations with a person of another race. Needless to say, my parents committed that crime. So my question would be, Malik, how do you think that that Trevor Noaha was treated in a family, socially, in that context? Why was Trevor Noaha treated differently in his family with the grandma? Do you remember the grandma making a distinction, okay? What is the effect? How come? Why? Why was he treated differently? Can you talk about these mixed race cases and the townships?
Yes. Because apartheid was a system of separating people on color and opportunities according to color. Even how people stayed, they stayed separately in different areas because the white areas would have more resources, better schools, better infrastructure, better houses, better security, and all the basic necessities, even luxuries you need in life. You will find this in white communities. Now, in those communities, black people were not allowed to stay there. Those who worked there, they had to leave 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening to their own places. So, where all black people stayed, poor, no infrastructure, no opportunities. But someone like Trevor was a combination of 2 worlds that were clashing. One superior, one inferior. One opportunities, another no opportunities. One respected, the other not respected, despised. One good self-esteem, one low self-esteem. So his grandmother would have been someone who experienced apartheid when it was much more stronger. You cannot shout at a white child. A child 9, 10 years old was allowed to call an old woman of 60 years a girl. And that woman must call the young boy of 10 years boss, jefe. So in that sense, because Trevor's father was white, so the mother saw in Trevor a part of him and his privilege of being white, of being a boss, a jefe, of all the privilege. So he could not have the courage to treat him like other grandchildren who were 100% black. So that is one problem. It's the fact that she was conditioned to see someone who is black as deserving all the pain, but someone who is white deserving all the benefits and the luxuries and respect. Now Trevor had to benefit from so that is effectively how she would have treated him in that sense, with a bit of respect, because she did not know how to discipline a white child, because by law she couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's Trevor, Malik. This is something that we've been discussing in class, okay? How there is something about the fear of the unknown. So Trevor Noaha is something exceptional. There are not many Trevor Noahas because it was a crime. So his grandmother doesn't know how to treat him, and that is scary because she doesn't know. And these are known as being something dangerous, something scary, something that we could inflict some racism because of the fear, all right? That was not the case because she was a grandmother and she loved the child. But she saw that there was something in him that was uncanny. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So have you known many mixed race people in Africa, in South Africa? What kind of lives have they dealt? Do you understand? Do you know any other Trevor Noaha close to you that you can tell us about? Do you understand my question?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, there are a number. They are not too many, but they happen. And in the main, it's because when the Dutch, the Europeans came, they did not bring their wives with them or girlfriends. They found girlfriends who were playing here and wife, so they enjoyed them at night, and then they left a number of them, like people like Trevor Noaha in a case like this. Something similar to America, Australia, New Zealand, same.
What they call hybridity.
Yes, yes. Even in Latin America, you have this. So in the main, it depends on the epoch, on the time. So Trevor Noaha being born in the year 1984. So in 1984, it was at the time where apartheid was starting to collapse. But it was still, there was still separation. So those who are older than Trevor Noaha were completely hidden. So they would not be identified as they have a white parent because their parents could be arrested.
Do you understand? There was no visibility. So mixed race kids. Do you remember that scene in the story when Trevor Noaha is told to stay home? He cannot play on the streets because he's afraid of the police, okay? So the police could take him, and that was a crime. I mean, that was, okay, the parents could go to prison. So that's what he's saying, that many of these people, they came from these mixed race backgrounds, they were hidden. Do you understand? Hidden? They were hidden, okay? Because they were not visible. That was a crime. It was prohibited. 1984.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
So Trevor Noaha, so a child like Trevor Noaha was evidence of a crime. So you hide evidence from the police because you're going to be arrested. No. So it's only when then in 1989, 1990 mainly, in 1990 when Mandela was released, then they could be seen. Because though the law was still there, it was not enforced.
It was not so strong. It was, if there was a law, okay, Apartheid hadn't finished yet, but
Yes.
there was more permission, all right? I wanted to ask you something else. I think that it would be interesting for everyone to understand. I don't know if many of you, has anyone been to South Africa in the audience? Anyone? You've been to South Africa, Pilar? Anyone else? Okay, I would like you to tell them a little bit about Soweto. Remember, Soweto is a township where Trevor Noaha was born, where his grandma still lives, and it was one of these townships, okay, devoted to black people. All right? Can you tell us a little bit about the context so they can know what kind of languages they spoke, what kind of communities were living together, blah, 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 police, public life?
Yes. Soweto is, today Soweto is a population of about 3 million people.
Wow.
So it is big. 3 million people. It's all black people speaking different languages, but all black people, they understand each other with their languages. Because they were removed from areas that were closer to cities to make place for white areas, so they had to be taken away. That's how Soweto was developed. So they removed all black people who were living closer to white areas, far away from those areas, and they created Soweto.
Okay. Wait, let's check if they understood. Are you following? Yes. Yeah? Clear? No paraphrasing? No. All right. Good. Go ahead. You're excellent. They understand you better than us.
I think so too. I can see that they understand. Their English is much better than yours. It's very good. So, then in Soweto, it was created so that it is far from the cities and it is easier to police people there. So it will have 2 entrances, like, to go in and go out. Police can see who is going into Soweto and is going out of Soweto. Right, so it was, if you like, almost a big open prison, because you can actually see people. So when people left for work in white areas, they needed paper by the police to say, okay, you are working in white area, you're gonna come back at 6 every day from Monday to Friday. And that's it. So infrastructure not very good. It is almost like in some areas, though it is better than the favelas in Brazil, but it is the same concept. You see, where lots of poor people are actually there. All they have to do is to wake up in the morning and go and serve white communities and come back and sleep. And that is their daily lives. So they had to then create their own spaces of happiness within that problem. So they have culture, try to entertain themselves, they have sports, just to try and be happy. But it was always meant to be a source of workers, cheap labor.
Cheap labor? Trabajo barato?
Yeah. So that is effectively Soweto.
So that could be the definition of a ghetto. So we understand.
It is a ghetto. Yes, it's a ghetto. It was basically a ghetto.
Okay. Right. Interesting. You were talking about before, right? You were talking about the language diversity in Soweto. Okay. How so many communities, black communities, African communities, okay, they ended up living together in that ghetto artificially. They were pushed to the ghetto,
yes,
right? And they had their own language, their own culture, right? and they had to live together. What is really amazing about Trevor Noaha is that he knows how to switch from one community to another. Do you remember what is his superpower? What is his superpower? He's got a superpower. He speaks. He speaks in many languages. He knows how to speak Xhosa, he knows how to speak Zulu, he knows how to speak a lot of languages, African languages, and he speaks English, and he speaks German, and he can switch from one community to the other. So that's my question again. How is language and identity related in South Africa? Let me introduce your question, your answer, by quoting from the book again, okay? Trevor Noaha reads, language brings with it... Where's my camera? Here. Language brings with it an identity and a culture, or at least a perception of it. A shared language says we're the same. A language barrier says we are different. The architects of Apartheid understood this. Part of the effort to divide black people was to make sure we were separated, not just physically, but by language as well. In the Bantu schools, children were only taught in their home language. Zulu kids learned in Zulu. Zwana kids learned in Zwana. Because of this, we'd fall into the trap the government had set for us and fight among ourselves, believing that we were different. Divide and rule. Can you tell them about this? How is language related to identity in a very, very complex way in South Africa?
Yes. Fortunately, given the Spanish history, this might be relatively easy to understand. Language is who you are, because it is part of your culture. When you are crying, if you are Catalan crying, even if you know Portuguese, you will cry in Catalan, not in Portuguese. So, in that sense, when only you is left, it's your culture represents who you are and your identity. Okay. So in the apartheid system, what the system did was to create apartheid even in language. European languages were superior, African languages were inferior. Because then Africans will know from being a baby, just with the language they speak, that their only role in life is to make white South Africans happy, is to accept them, and that's all. Just like the same way people who farm pigs or farm animals, you farm animals to eat them. You see, so even in this case, the use of language was used so that when you are born speaking your language, that is not European, you must know your position in society, that your position is low, and therefore yours is to serve. And you should not aspire, dream, to be where Europeans are. So, for instance, black people were not allowed to learn mathematics at some point. So you could not do maths because they said, what is the point of teaching a black child mathematics? Because you're not going to use it. Your job is to be a waiter, is to look after children, is to wash clothes, and to clean. So, in that sense, that was the starting point of the language. Now, what that did is also created competition among black people, because no one is happy being poor, no one is happy being disadvantaged. So some will then learn European languages and not speak their own language, because in order to be mobile in society, you must speak the language of power. And the language of power is a European language, English, and also a mix between English and French and other European languages that it is called Afrikaans. It is European. It's very close to German, very close to Dutch. It has even some words, Spanish words in it also. You find it in it. What then happens is the black people among themselves, they compete about how best they speak English, not about how best they speak their own language. Because their own language is not opening doors, but English or Afrikaans is opening doors. That is the one big issue when it comes to language. But there's also, as you said, divide and rule. Remember?
Divide and rule.
Yes. When Europeans came to South Africa, there was one European for 19,000 Africans. So to control, if one person to control 19,000, you have to divide them, make them fight, so that it's easier for you to control them. And when Trevor Noaha was born in 1984, there was one white person to 10. So they managed to actually push down the black population and up the white population, because they wanted South Africa to be like New Zealand, like Australia, you see, in Africa. So that's and language was very important in this.
Yeah, what is the state of the official languages in South Africa nowadays? What are the official languages? Which I think that can give them an idea of how things are.
Yes. In our constitution, all languages are equal. But that is just paper. It's just on paper. In reality, English is the most. You see, because it's a language for laws, it's a language for progress, and therefore it's a language for opportunities.
So,
Afrikaans is the second language, official language, because it's also a second language for the white community that has got power. So when you talk language, you talk power. English and Afrikaans, because these are languages of people with money.
yeah,
So that's yeah. And of course, in our parliament, I can go and talk in Xhosa, my language, with many clicks. If people don't understand, that's their problem. They must go and learn it. But you see, so that is the South Africa. But you can't get opportunities talking Xhosa or talking Zulu. You see, because the people who control opportunities are still predominantly the ones who speak English or Afrikaans.
That's really interesting, the way he's talking about the hierarchy between languages, the apartheid that was imposed on languages, and how languages were used as an instrument of oppression and inequalities. Because Trevor Noaha in his story, Chameleon, right, he makes a final choice. Does anybody remember what's the final choice that he makes? He goes to a primary school, right, where there's a mixture of blacks and whites all together and there are no differences. But then he gets into a government school where the hierarchies and the differences appear. Do you remember? And he goes to the counselor, right, of a school, the head of studies, and he talks to her, and he says, what does he say? What's the question? What's the choice he needs to make? Does anybody remember?
He wants to go to black.
Yeah. He finds out that there are A classes, B classes, C classes, and D classes. But he realizes that in the A class, he's a very smart boy, where he is, they're predominantly white. And then in B class, okay, they're predominantly black. And he doesn't understand. What does the counselor tell him? Do you remember? This is related to what Malik is saying here. What is he told? What does the head of studies tell him? Okay. What does he tell him? Anyone?
He will not progress, have a progress.
If you want to improve, if you want to have opportunities, all right, don't stay in the B class. That's for blacks. Stay in A class where you will be offered different opportunities. Remember? What is his final choice? Black people. He decides to go to the black people's class. What is the significance of that choice? I want you, Malik, to share with us your thoughts about that decision. How does he feel among the whites? How does he feel among the blacks? And what is the understanding from the perspective of a South African like you? Do you understand the question?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes. Him being mixed in white communities, he would not have been accepted because he is not white. Right, so he would have always been seen as better than black, but not white. But in black communities, he would have seen as almost white, because he's not black, so he's not like them. So he would have been treated with better respect by black people because of the conditioning for them to see white people superior, black people inferior, but also he has a white father. So he's unhappy with you, what can he do? Maybe he's going to tell his father, and then his father calls the police. Then that's a problem, you see? So that's that. But he can't do the same with white kids, because they also have white fathers. You see, so this is not an advantage. There is no social advantage in that sense, but in terms of power, but in opportunities, the teacher was correct. You see that he had better chances in the white class, because here, unlike in Spain, unlike in Holland, or Italy, or France, everyone here who wants to be a doctor, a nurse, an engineer, a lawyer, or anything at university, you study it in English. So you study medicine in English, but all the patients speak Zulu. All the patients speak Xhosa. But you understand their illness in English, not in their language, which is a problem, because it is the continuation of an education system that is meant to produce people to serve white people. You see, so that's that. So in that sense, from a social point of view, because at the end he was staying in Soweto, So he would have been comfortable making friends there, he would be treated with respect, not by people he was not staying with, that is the white people, because then all these white, he sees his white friends only at school. But then he goes back in Black Township, so that would have been a disadvantage for him.
Exactly. So Trevor Noaha could make a choice, and he made a choice. I'm going to read his choice, which describes what you said. I got along with the white kids, but I didn't belong with the white kids. I wasn't part of their tribe, but the black kids embraced me. Come along, they said. You're rolling with us. With the black kids, I wasn't constantly trying to be. With the black kids, I just was. All right? So that privilege, okay? Because he was part of it. He didn't have to show hard that he was good enough. Okay? He was more than good. Okay? So I wanted to, now we're reaching the end of a conversation, and we're going to leave some time for you to ask questions to Malik, okay? But my last question would be, Malik, what do you think is the present and the future of South Africa in terms of racism, apartheid? My initial question, do you think that apartheid is unofficially over? Do you understand? Officially, it is over. Is it unofficially over?
No. All the facts indicate that apartheid continues. Now, the only difference is that the people who are enforcing it are black now. So they are just paid by white business to continue the same policies. You see, because if you understand apartheid, as I explained, that it is about opportunities, it's about resources, it's about quality of life. The quality of life for white people has actually gotten better, and the quality of life of a number of black people has actually gotten worse. As you see, in a number of important aspects. What has changed is the fact that black people vote. Yes, they decide, but the system is rigged. I don't understand if you know it is fixed. It is fixed. It is fixed because as long as the economic structure remains, predominantly white, more than 90% of commerce, economy, is in white people in South Africa, and white people now, they are between 7 and 9% of the population. So it's a big problem in that sense. And what they have, politicians now work for them to continue apartheid, but in a different system, where black people remain poor, and the others, they continue being better. And only those black people who are related to politicians who have opportunities to progress. But if you do not have a relationship with politicians who are corrupt, then you don't have a chance. So in that way, apartheid does not exist in law on paper, but in practice, every day it exists. Today, my language speaks Toba, it speaks Zulu. You see, and that is because what has changed is the policeman, but the policy stays. You see, so the system, it remains the same. Black people are still disadvantaged as before.
So there is a system of where black people are occupying places that they had never been occupying, but they're following the same logics. Nothing has changed in terms of power, oppression, right?
Nothing.
Yeah? Because power is still in the hands of the whites.
Yes. You see that in land. Because you see the colonial project was about land. Black people, even today, they only have 13% of the land.
Of the land. Of the land. And what about the Indian community? Because we are talking about colors, okay? We talked about that in class too, all right? So there were the whites, there were the blacks, but there was a hierarchy between Africans, black Africans and Indians, okay? The businessmen, the struggle, the competition. Can you tell us a little bit about that complexity too? Do you understand what I'm saying? The black community and the Indian community, did they get along during apartheid times? Yes, no, why?
Yes, it was never easy. And that's because the apartheid system had white people on top. It had Trevor Noaha and other mixed people as number 2.
Yeah.
It had Indians or Asians as number 3. It had Africans like me as number 4 at the bottom. Right. So, in that sense, because Indian people were traitors, just like they are just like the Pakistanis in Spain.
They were traders, they were business people, they owned properties, they had business, right? Like Pakistani community in Spain, he says, where they're opening shops, restaurants,
Yes.
okay, they're business people.
Yes. So the apartheid government saw them as a threat, the Indian, because of this, because then it means they were independent, from them, and that was not what they wanted. You see, so because if you've got your own shop, then you don't need to go and work for a white family or any of that. So this was a bit of a problem, but then also for competition with white shop owners. You see, so to protect white shop owners, then they try to discriminate against the Indians. Now, because of that, it made the Indians and Africans in a number of ways closer. You see, because then in some areas, both of them were not allowed to have shops or to trade in certain things. Now, for instance, in my parents' time, the shops there couldn't sell white bread because white bread was for white people. So only brown bread for black people or Indians, but white bread is for white people. You see, so Indians, even if they also wanted to sell white bread, they could not sell it. And this was always a problem, because both Indians and black people were not allowed to have access to white bread, as an example.
Do you understand? White bread, brown bread. El pa integral se li diu brown bread i és fosquet. Com el pa negre, que sabeu la història del pa negre? No és el mateix. El pa blanc era pels blancs i el pa negre era pels indis i els negres. O sea, distinción con la comida, no? Apartheid con la comida. Yeah? She wants to ask a question. Maybe we could start with a
Okay,
question.
yes.
In the education teaches over apartheid, that young people learn
Do young people learn
over apartheid.
about apartheid nowadays? Critical thinking, critical perspective at schools, that's a very good question.
In my country, el passat, ¿cómo te digo? Se olvida.
English, he doesn't understand.
In my country, it's a problem.
In your country, that is a problem. We don't have historical memory, all right?
Yes.
There's no talking about the past. What happens in South Africa nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of teaching about apartheid, but it's superficial. It's a surface. You see, because everyone wants to be nice, they don't want to make other people feel bad. But that is not the point of education. Education is to learn both the good and the bad. You see, so that we can do the good and never do the bad again. So that in this case, they only talk about Mandela. You know, and then that's it. And then Mandela, yeah, they just talk about Mandela in prison, Mandela is a president now, and Mandela is kissing old ladies, and Mandela loves everyone. So apartheid is gone. But they don't talk about the relationship between race or color and opportunities. Because that still exists today. So when you talk about this, it's like you start in trouble. You see? So if you talk about that black kids don't have many good role models because their parents were not allowed to study in maths and other things. Now, then everyone says, no, forget about that. Now today people can study everything. But they don't talk about if your mother is a maths teacher because she's white, and mine doesn't know maths because she's black, at home you get more help than I get. So we are not equal. This is so we need help. But no one wants to talk about this because it's trouble. You're creating problems. So as a result, we have more young white racists today. Every day you see them on social media being openly racist. You see, because the education system, both at home and at school, is not good enough.
That's unfortunately that's an international phenomenon. Huh? You didn't understand? He was talking about inequality and equity. Do you understand? Equidad y igualdad. So those who have less, okay, they need more support. And what he's saying is, structurally, when we talk about history and apartheid, and we read the past, we read the surface, la superficie, but we don't analyze the structure. And he's saying, hey, there is a structural problem here. Black families are not given the same opportunities than white families. So the state needs to work on this, and no one talks about it. Do you understand? So racism from white community is raising up. Does it ring a bell? Or suena? Does it ring a bell? Europe. Look at Europe. That's what's going on nowadays. The US, I mean, Western world is also following the same pattern in a way. All right? Do you have any other questions now that we have the generosity from Malik, who's giving us his time? Do you have more questions that you would like to discuss about? Things that you could talk to with a South African guy?
Can I add something a little bit on what you just said, Diana?
Sure.
Yeah. We're talking about racism in the world.
Yeah.
If you were to look at who is driving it in the world, it's South Africans. Elon Musk is a South African, was born here. So he is behind it. And number of high technology people around Mr. Trump are South Africans. But they went there. So that is the big problem that we actually have, is that we are now exporting it, making it international. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. because that gives us a perspective of the spreading of apartheid throughout the world, which is very dangerous. Apartheid is spreading around the world. Do you understand?
Yes, a global problem. Yes, a global problem.
It's a global problem. Yeah, it's a global problem, and that connection is a good one, huh? That's a good one. Any other questions, comments you want to share with us? Anyone? You look a bit tired. He talks Xhosa. Yeah, don't you? And Zulu? Both?
Yeah.
Both languages.
Yes.
Both languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are your mother tongues. Xhosa is your mother.
Yeah, Xhosa is my mother's tongue, but I speak other languages because I also stay in Soweto when we speak different languages.
All the languages. Okay, like Trevor Noaha. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good, interesting. He's one of those people who code switch and identify with different communities. You're a chameleon.
From a language point of view, maybe.
Language chameleon, that's nice. Anyone else? More questions? I think Malik, shall I give you your turn? I don't know if you want to add something to conclude. First of all, I would like to thank you so much again. It's the third time that we're having this beautiful conversation with our students. This time it's been a bit more, it's been different, okay, and we managed, okay, despite the distance, okay, we crossed the boundaries and we talked. And that's a beautiful metaphor for the world we live in. But this is the beautiful side of it. There are other sides of a coin. And I think that Karma, who is, let me introduce you to Karma. Karma is a very good friend of our community. She's been giving all her support to us, okay, with pedagogical things, okay. She works at the University of Autónoma de Barcelona. She's got loads of projects and she's an amazing person. And on the top of everything, she's Malik's wife. Okay, and she's got something very personal to share with you, and I think it's a very proper space to share that very personal thing that she wants to share with us, and we will receive that with a lot of respect. Okay, so whenever you want. Shall I?
Deixo que ho reparteixi i després ho dic. Perquè bàsicament llegiré, però hi ha una cosa que necessito traduir.
Does Malik know about it? Yeah.
Malik doesn't know what have I written, but Malik knows that I have written something. Is that correct, Malik?
Sí.
He will say sí to whatever I say. Correct?
Of course. I don't want to be close in public, so I will say.
Ell dirà que sí a qualsevol cosa que jo digui.
He's a good husband. He's a proper, an ideal husband. An ideal husband. He's a good husband. Indeed.
Yeah, he's a normal husband.
Venga.
Bàsicament parlaré en català perquè ara he marxat per això, Vull que se m'entengui, és molt important que se m'entengui. Però aquí hi ha al principi un poema que està en anglès que jo aniré traduint, però si el poso en català perd tota la seva gràcia. Llavors, perdrà la gràcia quan jo el tradueixi, però el teniu aquí en anglès, que rima i aquestes coses. Sí? D'acord. I em m'haureu de perdonar perquè segurament que estic emocionada i serà difícil de controlar.
Som-hi, estem aquí.
Sudàfrica 2025. Aquest poema va ser una crida a l'acció dels resistents contra l'apartheid. Aquest poema és de 1922 i està escrit, no recordo el cognom, Chris alguna cosa, el va escriure un nord-americà que parlava de la situació dels afroamericans a Nord-Amèrica en el 1922. Llavors, ell ho titula If We Must Die, si hem de morir.
Do you want me to read and then you translate? No?
Si hem de morir, que no sigui com els porcs, caçats en un lloc sense glòria. Mentre al nostre voltant borden com bojos, borden gossos famèlics i bojos, que fan burla de qui som nosaltres. Si hem de morir, deixeu-nos morir noblement. De manera que la nostra sang preciosa no sigui vessada en va. Que tot i els monstres que estem desafiant es vegin obligats a honorar-nos encara que haguem mort. Oh, senyors i senyores, trobem-nos o enfrontem-nos amb l'enemic comú. Encara que siguin molts més que nosaltres, deixeu-nos ser valents. I pels seus trets, bé, segurament n'atraparem algun, no? I què si davant nostre es troba la tomba oberta? Com a, aquí diu homes, però jo dic persones, que ens inclou a totes, com a persones ens enfrontarem als assassins, a l'assassina covarda manada. Contra la paret, morint, però lluitant. Aquestes paraules, per desgràcia, encara tenen vigència a la Sudàfrica de 2025. El govern actual de Sudàfrica reflecteix el que ja en els anys 70 Steve Biko, que va morir per la causa, activista anti-apartheid, va dir que passaria. Això és el que ell va dir que passaria, el que ara està entre cometes. Si tenim un mer canvi de color entre aquells que governen, el que segurament passarà és que les persones negres continuaran sent pobres i es veurà algunes d'elles filtrant-se en l'així anomenada burgesia. La nostra societat serà dirigida gairebé com en el passat. Us sona el que heu escoltat? Així ha passat, traint-se molt d'allò pel que el Mandela i resistents com el meu marit i molts d'altres van viure i van morir. Pel que molts dels resistents com el meu marit i altres van viure i van morir. El govern actual de Sudàfrica té entre els seus membres a persones que, segons les paraules d'Estan, un altre resistent, té un llibre que es titula If We Must Die. Un altre resistent, repeteixo, el govern actual de Sudàfrica té entre els seus membres a persones que, segons les paraules d'Estan, un altre resistent, són culpables de degradació moral perquè volen acumular quantitats indescriptibles de riquesa de forma ràpida. Us sona el que hem parlat? El govern actual de Sudàfrica té entre els seus membres a persones que, en paraules de Desmond Tutu, tothom sap qui era Desmond Tutu, no han, i aquí estic citant a Desmond Tutu, no han exorcitzat els horribles dimonis de l'odi i del menyspreu cap a ells mateixos que va fer que les persones negres adolessin a les blanques mentre tractaven a les del seu propi color com l'escòria que ells creien ser. Les raons per les quals el meu marit i jo estem a 10.000 quilòmetres de distància des de fa més de mig any són totes les anteriors i es concreten en una batalla legal que ja fa 10 anys que dura i que el 27 de desembre de 2024 pensàvem que s'havia acabat, quan el Tribunal Suprem de Sudàfrica va fallar al nostre favor. Però no. No s'ha acabat perquè l'Estat ha decidit apel·lar al Constitucional, ja que no vol complir una sentència que l'únic que demana és que no se'ns faci pagar a nosaltres per quelcom pel que som innocents. I això ho diu literalment la sentència. Per què ho fan? Perquè el volen mort. No sé si físicament, però professionalment i econòmicament segur. Fa 10 anys que el volen matar. Professional i econòmicament. En algun moment vam patir molt per la seva vida física. No estem aquí, espero no haver-hi de tornar. No poden suportar que un dels seus demani ser tractat amb dignitat, amb justícia i amb igualtat de condicions. A ells, durant 10 anys i avui en dia, els diem: si hem de morir, seran els nostres propis termes. Morirem, sí, professional, econòmicament, espero que ja està, però lluitant. Ara bé, morir no és el que volem, en cap dels menys possibles. Ni física, ni professional, ni econòmicament. Per això avui us demano que si algú coneix alguna organització que ens pugui defensar pro bono, o que ens pugui deixar diners sense voler quedar-s'ho tot a canvi, o que sàpiga com organitzar un crowdfunding que ens permeti recollir diners pel judici, o qualsevol altra cosa per poder seguir plantant cara, que contacti amb mi. Hi ha una entrevista a YouTube feta al meu marit per un canal de televisió nacional, després d'aquesta sentència que vam guanyar, altres notícies publicades al respecte, la sentència, la documentació acumulada al llarg dels anys, tot és molt transparent. Moltes gràcies per escoltar. Per mi fer això és molt difícil. Hem estat lluitant 10 anys absolutament sols. Absolutament sols. I ara volem seguir lluitant, però si us digués el que costa defensar mig dia de judici, us esparveraríeu. I ara senzillament el que jo demano, i això sóc jo, el meu marit, que no sé on està, no sabia que ja anaria avui això aquí, perquè necessitem ajuda, vaja. Si algú sap a on la podem anar a buscar, aquí està el meu número de telèfon. Si algú vol saber més, aquí està el meu número de telèfon. I us agraeixo que m'hagueu escoltat. Us agraeixo que m'hagueu escoltat.
La Carme ha compartit amb nosaltres, sabent que l'escola és un espai segur on es pot buscar aliances. Si tenim juristes, persones del món del dret, d'alguna organització internacional entre el públic o que conegueu i li podeu donar alguna guia per com seguir amb el seu procés, doncs serà super d'ajuda. Aquestes trobades de lectura, aquestes trobades de xerrada, aquestes trobades de reflexió col·lectiva ens fan sentir que no estem soles, no? I fan que aquests espais que estem creant a l'escola siguin espais de reflexió i d'acció. No només de reflexió, sinó també d'acció. Jo li volia agrair, I wanted to thank Malik. Are you in Taiwan? Where is he?
El Malik potser s'ha emocionat i no ho vol.
Ok, bueno, doncs li dius de part nostra. Ah, he's here, eh?
Yeah, it's just that my camera is very emotional, so it's not...
Camera is very emotional.
Okay, Malik, we wanted to thank you so much for sharing with us your story, your thoughts, your time, your distance, and your grief, in a way. And we feel very honored to share of sharing this with you. And we hope to see you very soon here in Barcelona, and to give you a big hug. And we hope the best for you and your family in the future. We'll be here trying to help as much as we can, okay?
Yes, next Thursday and Monday. So I'm leaving on Wednesday.
You're leaving on Monday, okay.
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday, so we might see you soon. We might,
Yes,
we might have him here soon. Okay, all right. Thank you for everything, Malik. Big clap.
Moltes gràcies.
Moltes gràcies, bona nit.
Bona nit.
Adéu.